So the show is today with John and Helen live on Plus TV Africa, and we thank you so very much for choosing to be a part of the conversation today. The week was filled with so many activities and events, no doubt. Some of them so good, some not very good. But we will not delve into all of that now, Fumi, because we have a very serious issue at hand, and the guest is already here.
Yes, even though I feel like one of the interesting things, very quickly before we go to I followed one international story of a lady, an African American actress called what's her name, Keke Palmer.
Okay.
Or is it Keke or Kiki? Kiki. Emma Binu. Sorry. And so there was this situation where she had gone for a concert, the famous American Usher, and then she was dressed in I think a bodysuit, but it had a sheer cover, and then her bottom, was showing, and then her partner, who she has a baby by, they're not married, tweeted and said, "But you're a mom now, and you shouldn't,
be doing this
or where he was just basically uncomfortable with the entire thing." And for me, what I liked about the entire conversation was how social media went. All of us online e-laws, people had opinions from left, opinions from right. Feminists had their opinion. Different people had their opinion. I was trying to raise something, and yes, I totally agree with them in saying that he shouldn't have had to, because they live together. He shouldn't have had to put that tweet out on social media. You could have sent her a message personally. Maybe they even had a quarrel before they went to her. She said, before she went out, she said, "Look, what I'm wearing, there's really nothing you can do." And then for me, I found it very interesting because I think that also and I know that with whether a marriage or you're in a relationship with someone, eventually you get to change. They get to have some sort of impact on you. But we also should not be delusional. And I think it happens to mainly women, that we feel like we can change somebody. You see somebody with this thing, and you just and then you want to change this person that you have met like this, all these years. I'm not saying that you cannot influence the person one way or the other, but there's just some deep character things that you can't change. And then Kiki is in the and she's not even just any American she's in the American entertainment space. So Oga, you know this thing before you follow this woman. So why I found it very interesting. Even up until yesterday, we still had that
another aspect angle to look at that is that they're partners, they're not married yet, they have a child together, and so I could see it like you mentioned, he should have kept it secret directly to her. Like, he probably was looking out for her. Maybe if he had seen her when she was dressed and about to go for that event, he would have been able to say, "Babe,
and
do something."
I like how all of us are now woke, but the truth is we are all human beings, because there is no man, even women. I don't want to, like I said, our guest is already here. I don't want to also go into, because there's a popular influencer in this Nigeria that heard that her man maybe even sent money to somebody, and she blasted the girl on social media. That is women. So a guy, you're seeing this, your beautiful wife opening all her goods that you're managing, you're just using your eye to be managing inside the house, then she's now robbing somebody. Your body will be hot. Your body is going to be hot. There's really nothing you can do.
Whether you're married or not.
So
flattering, okay, all right. So she gave herself up, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Sommie, thank you so much for joining us in the studio. And we also have UzoAmaka joining us via Zoom. Good morning, UzoAmaka.
Is she there?
Good morning, Helen. Good morning, Fumi. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure.
How is your center today? Where are you joining us from?
From Anambra, Oka precisely.
Oh, I hope it's a bit peaceful today.
Yeah, for now. For now.
All right. We thank God.
I hope so, yeah.
Okay, so the main thrust for today's show is there's this bill, the Disability Bill 2018, and that's our focus.
Yes.
We're going to try and see how much clearer, we can understand what it's all about. So maybe the best place to start
is to ask about the act. So what exactly? And so I think I'll start with UzoAmaka. So UzoAmaka, just tell us, not in layman's terms, this 2018 act, what does it say? What does it entail? And how does it impact everyone?
Okay, this Disability Act 2018 is an act that provides persons with disabilities the full integration into the society. And this act equally enables persons with disabilities to have national commission. They will cater for the medical rights, social, economic, civil rights, and other related matters as it affects persons with disability. This act gave persons with disability an age to be socially and economically included in the society. We can be able to fight the social barriers that each and every one of us are facing. That's what the act is all about. Thank you.
Okay. So what do you mean when you say, and maybe I'll come to you, Sommie, when you say social barriers, what social barriers are persons living with disability? What social barriers are they facing?
You know, like we're talking, the name of our capstone group is Diversity, Inclusion and Social Justice. And so inclusion is very, very important, and it's very important for any social society and for anyone living in a society.
Okay.
And so when we talk about that social inclusion, we mean simple things just as much as being able to access buildings without having 5 people carry them on a wheelchair. And that's, you know, the kind of sense of independence that persons living with disabilities crave, just so that they feel like members of society. So that's just one of the things that we believe affects their social welfare.
Okay, we everybody is at a place where we're saying things are so tough, things are so bad, and we can imagine how bad it would be for persons, living with disabilities now. So, what are the content and the implementation of the legislation? How well has it been able to help, persons living with disabilities in this environment? Specifically talking about this legislation, the Act of 2018.
I think one of the reasons why we're having this conversation and the reason why we chose this as our capstone project is because while the Act has good intentions, the effects are not as far-reaching as we need them to be.
Okay.
And so this is the case with a lot of legislation in Nigeria. They are, they have a good intention, but of course, intent is very different from action. And so we're not quite where we want to be. We appreciate that a number of private organizations and a number of individuals and a number of government bodies take this act seriously and implement it in their own spaces, but we want this to be as far-reaching as possible to every institution in Nigeria, to the 36 states, to the 37 states rather.
Well, 36 states are the capital.
Well, yes.
All
Debatable.
right, okay, so UzoAmaka, I'll come to you. So how, like somebody has said, you want it to be, but what's the reality? It's a shame to say that, when she talked about bringing people, I remember at some point in this place, we had a person living with disability who had visited the building, and exactly what Sommie had described is what happened. We had to get people to help carry her. Fortunately, she had her crutches with her, so she came on the staircase with her crutches, that we had to carry her wheelchair. And it seems like something very simple, because some people will feel like, oh, why do you have this slab here when you don't have anybody that is with a disability in your office,
workplace?
So how do we get just even those simple things of, okay, when you put a staircase here, can you put another slab here, like how we have in the some pedestrian bridges even in Lagos, because there are many pedestrian bridges in Lagos that do not have those things. So how do we begin to inculcate and tell people that, okay, or government and corporate organization, even media organization, like this is very important to include for people?
Okay, that's the essence of this program today. It's all about sensitizing the persons, the populace in general, because a lot of persons don't know that this act even exists.
Yes.
So it's imperative to have every hand on deck, put every checkmate in place to see that persons know that this act is existing, because at this point in time, this act is still in the transitional period. period of 5 years, starting from January 2019, and it's going to be ending this year, 2023. Starting from next year, 2024, it will go into full enforcement. Because in the Act, we have where that anybody that is a defaulter of this Act, without provision of ramp in public places, making it difficult for persons with wheelchairs not to access that building, can be penalized. So also, it's good that through this Act, if we start understanding and knowing that this right exists, we'll start renovating most of those public places, putting a public awareness signage for persons with disabilities that this is a place you can access, this is not the place you can access. People without disability will see also that this is places for persons with disability to access. Even like in parking lot, we'll have it in the outside for the Westerners. They have those places mapped out already. So it boils down to sensitization and creation of awareness so that everybody will be fully informed, and this Act will be fully implemented so that nobody will say, I do not know. In the court of law, there is no excuse. Thank you.
For ignorance. All right. You see, a lot of us assume that we have an idea what the challenge is, you know, before persons living with disabilities are. But, you know, you really can't say it if you haven't been there. Would you just talk to us about the societal challenges, you know, the everyday difficulties that persons living with disabilities in our environment face? Still with you.
UzoAmaka, can you hear us?
Okay, I hope we haven't lost you, but can you take that
Yeah,
up?
I can hear you now. Can you please repeat for it?
Okay, I said a lot of us assume that we have an idea of what people with disabilities face on a daily basis in terms of challenges and difficulties. But you are there, so would like you to tell us, you know, on a day-to-day basis, from the homes to the offices, wherever, what are really the challenges that persons with disabilities face in our environment as of today?
It's a harmful experience. As a person with disability, the challenge starts with attitudes, perceptions of persons. You may wake up one day, let me use myself as an example. I may decide to go to church today and getting to the church premises. What the ushers have in mind is, I need a miracle. Not knowing I came there to come and fellowship with them.
Okay.
That is their attitude, that's their perception of what they are thinking. Now, when you come to environment, we'll have a lot of barriers, such as having staircase without having elevator or ramp, without having a proper signage. When we have social barriers, talking about stigmatization, discrimination, some persons think that associating with persons with disability is infectious. And persons with disability have this mystic about them that when you interact with them, one thing or the other, bad omen will happen, something like that. So it's really, really not encouraging. Disability is not a choice. It's just a happenstance to people.
Okay.
So it's for us to embrace it with open hand. We are all human beings like everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Sommie, let's talk about abuse, because I find that many disabled people, particularly females, are abused. Is there anything that protects them from abuse?
Like I was going to say whilst I was speaking, I was watching out to see if you would miss that part, is that the Act actually empowers persons living with disabilities to raise legal action against defaulters. And so there's prescriptions for fines of 100,000 naira and up to a number of years for imprisonment for defaulters of that Act. And so this is another thing that kind of weakens legislation in Nigeria, is that Nigerians don't understand that we have a right to make those legislations work for us. And so as much as we want to hold stakeholders responsible, it's a double-edged sword where the persons living with disabilities and those interested persons like us now hold those that are not following the act accountable.
So abuse, I was asking about abuse. Is abuse protecting persons living with disabilities from abuse in the act as well?
Ignorance of their rights and, just not including them in general is abuse. So them not being able to access this building, them not being able to...
Sexual abuse is what I mean.
Oh, sexual abuse. I don't think there's a specific recommendation for sexual abuse. I think sexual abuse,
cuts across.
Yeah, it cuts across.
General law that covers that.
Yes, I think it covers everyone.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, so let's bring it to the home.
Exactly.
This is a family show. If a mother with a child or two, living with disabilities, watching this program, for example, how would we be? How can we help such a parent or a mother, cope?
I think first of all, we should acknowledge that it's a very difficult situation for anybody, especially if it's not a situation that you've dealt with before. Typical Nigerian, I would say, whatever God you serve, draw close to that God. And then the way this God works is that a lot of persons with disabilities, as we call them, I will say they are differently abled. So as much as they may not be able to do one thing, they may be excellent at a number of other things. And so there is always beauty in the chaos, and I will say look out for that. And don't dwell on the negative, because there's certain it will distract you from the very, very beautiful positives that I'm sure exist.
Okay. And UzoAmaka, I would like you to give a word of encouragement to a teenager, male or female, who feels very different from his friends, his classmates, because he's a person living with a disability. What word of encouragement do you have for that person?
Like I always tell people, disability is an ability lying waste on earth. So as a word of encouragement to persons with disability like me, it's all about not letting the background keeps you on the ground. You have to stand up and move forward. Forget whatever you are experiencing at that point in time. Keep pushing. With little encouragement here and there, you get where you're supposed to be. Thank you.
That's a fantastic note to
round it up. Yes, I was going through her CV and I was so amazed and encouraged that you have reached such a height, in an environment where a lot of the things that should help and assist you achieve your potentials, are almost not available. So we say congratulations and we thank you, because really you are a shining light, in this terrain, dealing with people with disabilities. Yes, thank you so much. I would also
like to thank Sommie too. Well done.
Thank you so much for having me.
I keep advocating for. I see how passionate you are about it. So please keep advocating, keep speaking.
Thank you so much.
Keep using all the platforms that you can.
And of course, we're here to keep reminding them that this art needs to be, come into effect as soon as possible.
Domesticated in all our homes.
Yes, as soon as possible.
Okay, so from the reality, the work to improve the lives of persons living with disabilities among us, we move on how we can raise and maximize the gift of our children for the benefit of all. When we return, a coding and programming expert, Emmanuel O'Malley, will be saddled with the responsibility of helping us navigate raising child geniuses. Interesting. Stay with us.
All right.